Good morning, guys, and happy Monday. Obviously, as you know, on Mondays, we take the beginning of these videos a little differently, where I just have the chance to kind of talk to you a little bit about what I want the big idea for the week to be. So I'm going to cover two big things with you right off the bat. Number one, obviously, many of you let me know that my math lab was experiencing technical difficulties yesterday. So that means that the homework for yesterday, once again, sorry, I'm always filming a day in advance. The homework which would normally be due this morning by 8 o'clock, I've extended that to 2 o'clock this afternoon. That should give you enough time, if you did run into any technical problems, to be able to get that finished. It also means that I'm going to be keeping homework for today very short, and that's going to happen in all my classes. So make sure that if you did not get the chance to take care of things, that you take a step back and take care of that first. Not only because it's important to be able to get the grade done, but also because you want to make sure that you're ready for the quiz, which will be tomorrow. Remember, again, Tuesdays right now is looking like the day that I'm going to sort of keep open for quizzing, and this week is going to be no exception. We'll talk more specifically about that in each class. I also want to give you one tip. I thought about this a lot this weekend. You know, like how when you go home over the summer and then you come back and you've forgotten everything? I want to keep in mind the importance of you also going back and looking over stuff from earlier in the year. Because with this change in the environment of school, there's going to be a lot that gets lost. And so you want to stay on top of that. Because remember, you will be back in a building. We don't know when yet, but we know you will be. So I recommend to everybody that you take a look at the exam simulations from previous quarters so that you feel confident about what it is that you're trying to get done, both for now and for math classes that you have in the future. Once again, the big takeaways: review stuff from the past when you have the chance. Be aware that homework from this weekend has been extended to 2 p.m. today to give you time to get that done because of the technical difficulties. Quiz tomorrow, very short homework assignments tonight, and for each class, I'll discuss the specific things you need to know. See you in a minute. All right, good morning, guys. Today, I want to keep it really, really simple. There's nothing new. Everything we're going to do today is basically designed to help get you ready for tomorrow's quiz. So let me begin by giving you the layout of what that's going to look like. You're going to have 10 items on that quiz. 7 of them are going to be basic quadratic equations, solving them. In other words, no problem solving built on top of them. No story problem, nothing to set up, just something like this. This is a fairly complicated version. I'm going to show you a complex version of this because if you can do this, you can do the easier ones. 7 of these. Remember, a lot of times in these, well, not a lot of times, all the time, we're going to have, in general, let me back that up, the vast majority of the time, you're going to have more than one answer to that equation. The remaining 3 items will be problem solving. Now, that's the homework from Thursday night and the homework from Friday night over the weekend. Now, I want to let you know in advance, 2 of those will be problems from the Thursday night work. That's the notes, that's the work you had to do in my math lab. One of them, the last one, number 10, will be one of the triangle problems that we did on Friday. Now, I'm not going to be reviewing one of those problems with you today because I'm telling you right now, it's going to look exactly like the one that I reviewed with you on Friday. So I recommend strongly that you go to the folder that contains last week's work and you watch those videos. In fact, doing that from Wednesday through to today would be a really good idea to help get you ready. So the first 7 are going to be variations on this, and they're not going to get much more complicated. There's only one thing I'm not going to discuss in the review, which is always make sure that you check for common factors first and you factor those out of a binomial or a trinomial. Now, in this case, there is no common factor, so we don't have to worry about that. Right now, we're in good shape. The equation's already set to 0 on one side, so we're ready to go where that's concerned. And remember, the next step is we need to do whatever is possible to make sure that we get rid of any of our exponents, in other words, our x squared. So the good news is this first binomial, 5x minus 1, we don't need to do anything with it. It's already ready for us to separate out and set equal to 0, which you'll see we've done down here. But this trinomial has an x squared in it, so we need to factor that out using the steps that we've been working on. Now remember, that's trial and error. We're going to look for factors that multiply to positive 25, and right now if you're thinking positive 5 and positive 5, you're already in the right track. Remember, this 2x squared kind of complicates things a little bit because that means we have to sort of use trial and error with various combinations of factors until we find the right thing. But I'm not going to bore you with how we've done that because we spent a good couple of weeks doing that already. So I'm going to leave this one alone, and I'm going to factor this one out into two binomials, and that's right here. 2x plus 5 times x plus 5. And you can FOIL that back out to see that that does indeed produce this, although you've probably been working with it long enough. Now look, we've got a 5x here, we've got a 2x here, and we've got an x here. No more exponents. So now we're ready to set each one of these parts equal to 0. So that's all I've done here. 5x minus 1 equals 0. We go through the work that's needed to do that, and we end up with a possible answer of x equals 1/5. Next one, 2x plus 5 equals 0, and we go through the steps on that, and we end up with a value of x equals negative 5/2. And then lastly, x plus 5 equals 0, and we end up with a possible answer of x equals negative 5. And all three of those answers, this is so important to remember, all three of those answers are correct answers to the equation. If x equals 1/5, then this part equals 0, and none of the rest matters. If x equals negative 5/2, then this part equals 0, and none of the rest matters. And if x is equal to negative 5, then that part equals 0, and none of the rest matters. By this point, you've had about a week of work with this, so it shouldn't be anything terrifically new. But I am telling you that if you feel confident about one at this level of difficulty, the 7 of them will not get any tougher than this level of difficulty. So right now, so I don't have to waste your time erasing the board, we're going to dissolve to the next problem so we can take a look at what problem-solving examples are going to look like. Okay, so the only difference on the problem-solving problems is that we just get some kind of narrative setup that we have to think about so that we know how to set up the quadratic equation. And the one I want to look at here, again, if you know how to do this one, you're not going to see one that's any more complicated. They tell us about a sail on a boat, and it's a triangle. Now, you are going to need to remember this. This formula is something you have to know for geometry, so I need you to go home and memorize it. While you're home, memorize it. Area equals 1/2 base times height. We've talked about it before. It's a common formula you've seen in your math classes. So they tell us that the height of this sail is 2 meters less than twice the length of the base. And I've underlined the key things here. First, we know that the base is our standard. So we're going to go ahead and just set our base equal to x. Now they tell us that the height of the sail is 2 meters less than twice the base. So how do we write the height in terms of x so we can work? Well, we know it's twice the length of the base, but then it's 2 meters less than that. So we write that as 2x minus 2. And we know that the area of this triangle is 30 square meters. So we just plug everything into our formula. 1/2 base times height, so the total area is 30. That's 1/2 times the base, that's x, times the height, which is 2x minus 2. So we factor all that through. We multiply the x through, and we multiply the 1/2 through as well. And that gives us 30 equals x squared minus x. Now remember, we cannot solve a quadratic equation until we have 0 on one side of the equation. So we're not there yet. We're not ready to solve. So we're going to subtract 30 from both sides. I went ahead and flipped the equation around so you could get a better sense of it. That gives us x squared minus x minus 30 equals 0. Pretty simple factoring work here. X minus 6 times x plus 5 equals 0. Now remember, like any quadratic equation, we're always going to have more than one answer. But as we talked about last week, think for a second why -5 can't be an answer to this question. And the reason is we can't have a negative length of something in the real world. So since we can't have a negative length of something, we can eliminate that possibility. So that means that the only possible value for x is 6. Now we're still not done with the problem because we needed to know the base and the height. Well, we know the base is just x. So if x equals 6, then we know the base of the sail is 6 meters. And if we know that the height of the sail is 2 meters less than twice that, 2x minus 2, then we just do 2 times 6, which is 12, minus 2, which gives us 10 meters. So this is an example of one of the more moderately complex problem-solving problems. So for the quiz tomorrow, to remind you again, 7 of the problems will just be flat quadratic equations, no setup. Get rid of common factors, set them equal to 0, factor it out, set each of the parts equal to 0, give me your answers. The remaining 3 will be problem solving. 2 of them will come from this set of items. That's Thursday's homework from last Thursday. And then the last one, the 10th item, will be a Pythagorean theorem triangle question, which you saw over the weekend. That said, that's all there is to it. Review what you need to review. You'll notice, now's the time to give away the big surprise, that there's no homework for tonight. So as long as you're spending your time reviewing and getting ready, also, if by this time you haven't been able to complete the weekend homework because of the problems with my math lab, you have until 2 p.m. to do so. I want to wish you all good luck today, and I'll see you tomorrow.